This is Jed Disler, and welcome to the Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. I've recently reviewed several releases devoted to piano duets by Franz Schubert, and in the process of doing my usual comparative listening, I came across this disc that I had not thought about in some time, and it turned out to be one of the best examples of Schubert duet playing on disc in my experience, and I can explain this in several respects. This is a disc on the Prague label, and it features the Prague Piano Duo, who are the husband and wife team of Zdenka and Martin Hersel. And listening to their Schubert disc, you can tell that they have played this repertoire for years and have pondered over and prepared each work in the finest of details. They open the disc with the Schubert F minor Fantasy, which has been recorded 100 gazillion times. And it's a fascinating performance and really quite convincing. They open the piece very deliberately, almost hesitatingly, as if the music is too sad to be heard. That's kind of what came to mind when I was listening. But then a palpable urgency sets in as the textures grow denser and the pianists wind up shaping their phrases in long lines, but with minimum pedal so as not to muddy up the texture. There's both a sense of groundedness and flexibility in that largo, where both pianists control the direction of their long back and forth trills with the greatest of finesse. This is something that's really hard to do because I've played this piece a lot, and these trills are a real horror point for me. I always obsess over, oh my God, is it going to be even? Am I going to be able to sustain the tension? But this duo really controls the trills amazingly well. And then the fast triple meter section goes like a breeze, but the suppleness and the intricate interplay between both pianists never makes the music sound too glib or too fast, and they leave a lot of room for tonal shadings. It's really quite an interpretation of this section. And the same goes for that final fugal episode. And again, this is music that can really bog down in thickness and just get so loud and heavy. But the pianist's superb balances and their transparency of texture really keeps everything moving. And certainly in terms of pianism alone, I think this is one of the best versions in the catalog of the F minor Fantasy, and I think it's also a very convincing interpretation. They also play the Andantino Varie in B minor with tremendous polish and sophistication. This is one of my all-time favorite Schubert duos, and I remember imprinting on this through the recording of Arthur and Karl Ulrich Schnabel, which I still think is pretty extraordinary. Now, I think the Prague Piano Duo's tempos in this piece tend to be a little too fast for my taste, and I miss some of the music's tenderness, but I really do like the surface glitter that they bring to the 8 variations in E minor on a French song. And in this interpretation, the tempos easily blend from one variation to the next. There's a real unity about the interpretation that I like. They also play the rondo in D major. This is a great performance. It has wonderful rhythmic pointing, and there are little expressive gestures like a momentary breath mark or a slightly delayed downbeat that really add to conveying character. There's a real lightness and wit that the duo brings to this piece that I think is completely fitting. And finally, they play the Allegro in A minor, the Lebenssturm. And this is a piece that can easily drive you crazy and sound like it goes on too long and overstays its welcome. However, the Prague Piano Duo maintain real horizontal clarity at all times. They don't lay heavily into those massive forte chords. And the way that they align imitative phrases is so precise and so beautifully worked out. It's almost like you are hearing motifs that are passing from one member of a string quartet to the next in the most assiduous kind of way. And that theme in triplets in A major in this piece, it just floats over the bar lines. It's really beautiful. It never falls into square patterns as it tends to do in many performances. What else? Oh, that lyrical A-flat major section. It almost sounds as if a great leader singer has joined forces with the most sensitive and responsive accompanist. What I'm trying to say is that this is a beautifully integrated interpretation that has obviously been worked out to the nines. It's been worked out like crazy and thought about and planned, but it still sounds spontaneous and just as natural as breathing. Now, I am not sure if this release can still be found in physical format, but it is available for download, and I did see it on the Prague Piano Duo's Bandcamp page, where one can find just about all of their Praga releases, and they do have a terrific discography. In fact, I would love to see a box set comprising the complete Prague Piano Duo recordings on the Praga label. I guess that's wishful thinking. Anyway, do check out the Prague Piano Duo's Schubert release on Praga, and I know you will be glad that you did. I'm going to talk very soon, by the way, about another fabulous Schubert four-hand release that I reviewed for Gramophone, featuring Leif Ove Ansnes and Bertrand Chamayou. And, in fact, Gramophone made this their disc of the month in the January 2026 issue. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to being with you for our next episode.